I am not responsible for any actions you may take after watching this video. We got big plans, man. We've got new channels, we've got new products, we've got new series, we've got all kinds of new stuff we're doing. I'm somewhere between 4 foot and 8 foot.
Somewhere between. You
don't know.
You can make a guess. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
I think about it more than I should.
Marques Brownlee net worth.
Oh.
What's up, guys? Saf here on SuperSaf Speaks, and we finally have our first guest here on the podcast. I wanted to get into the flow of things before bringing somebody on, and we've set the bar pretty high with our first guest, and that is, of course, the one and only Marques Brownlee, aka MKBHD. So awesome to have him on. We talk about being a YouTuber, talk about tech, Tesla, but also Marques's views on social media, the different platforms, including his podcast, and the expansion of his team. There's also a little fun section towards the end, so do stay tuned for that. Marques, great to have you on the channel. You're actually the first guest on the podcast.
First guest on SuperSaf Speaks.
Set the bar super high, man. The next guest is going to have a lot to live up to. But I appreciate you jumping on, man. I just dropped you a message and you're always up for doing collaborations. So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I know you like to talk tech. I kind of will endlessly talk tech too, so why not? Why not?
Hey, man, but the thing is, I don't only want to be talking about tech, because I know you talk about tech a lot on your own podcast, on the channel. So yeah, we're going to be talking tech, but I want to talk a little bit more about some of the things, right? Your views on social media, your team, things that hopefully you don't talk about on others' podcasts, right? Because I don't want to just be repeating stuff that people have already had, right? So sure. we'll try to mix it up a little bit as well. And then we've got a little fun section towards the end. As you might remember, we did last time, but this is a little bit different. So
okay,
all right. Should be fun. Should be fun. But let's start off with some tech, because one of the things that I always like to ask whenever I set one of these up is, what are your current daily drivers, right? Because they change, and I know we've talked about this many times before, but doing what we do, then they're not the same for long periods of time. So, phone, computer, camera.
Okay. I carry 2 phones. Still do. Videos coming from the iPhone 12 Pro, not the Max. Space gray. Yeah. And the daily Android phone is the Galaxy S21 Ultra, matte black, as you can imagine.
Of course.
Computer is again 2. I have a laptop and a desktop, so I guess I'll just say both. 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro. Love it. Probably won't need anything different for a long time. And the desktop's been the Mac Pro, the Intel Mac Pro for almost, not 2 years, but since it came out.
Okay.
And then camera has been the Red Monstro, long term. I've been on that camera for years.
That beast.
Yeah.
Well, iPhone 12 Pro. I was thinking Max. I mean, I'm similar to you, and I guess this is very much the case for a lot of other YouTubers. I am on the S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Why the 12 Pro and not the 12 Pro Max?
Yeah, I've talked about in the end of the year when I do my best smartphone awards. I always give an award to the best big phone for the best use of big space. And I feel like the iPhone disqualifies itself from that argument every year because the software experience is exactly the same as a smaller phone. All the buttons are the same places as the iPhone 12 mini, but spread out more. So I'm constantly doing all these hand gymnastics to get the notifications down from the top. Like how many big Android phones do you know where you can just swipe down from the middle and get your notifications? Like that's such a simple thing. And the big iPhone, it's just got too clumsy to use for me. So I appreciate the bigger sensor and that stuff. It's a great phone, but I get the same exact use out of that 12 Pro. And without the hand gymnastics.
That's a very good point, because this is something I always mention, that iOS needs to update for one-handed usage. Like we've seen what a lot of the Android manufacturers have done, like you mentioned, that swipe down. Now you can do the reachability thing, but I kind of find myself having to do that all the time. And
yeah, it's kind of clumsy.
Not practical. Yeah, and having the when you've got just 4 apps in in how wide that phone is, and it's a wide phone. It's wider than most Android phones.
Let me get 5.
Only have 4. Yeah, exactly. I know Apple likes consistency, but we definitely need to see an update there. What about your daily driver car right now?
Still same. My matte black Tesla Model S. I call it Phantom. Love that car. There's some developments on that. I don't want to spill too many beans.
Yeah.
But great car. Love that thing.
Yeah, I mean, awesome car. Now, obviously, you don't want to spill too much beans, and I totally appreciate that. Speaking of Tesla, because I've watched a lot of your Tesla videos, I actually used your referral link to buy mine, because watching yours was one of the reasons why I kind of like got interested in the whole Tesla space.
Yeah.
How many referrals have you had?
Oh, I think it's like 250-ish, something like that. I don't remember. Because they have that referral program, which was a great idea. Like Tesla brags on how little they do in advertising all the time, which is smart. Mm-hmm. But also they're smart about it. They do other stuff. So the referral program was a great way to like spread the message. A lot of people use that. Yeah.
And speaking of the referral program, by the way, I think I checked and it was like over 400. By the way.
Oh, for me? Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So there's a lot of people who have bought a car.
Yeah. So I'm interested because there was that referral program and the whole Roadster situation, right?
Yeah.
So can you give me a bit of background about that for anybody who doesn't know about it? What was the situation there, and where does it stand now?
Okay, yeah. So the Tesla referral program, just for anyone who's not like familiar, it would basically be every time you give someone your referral code or your link and they bought a car, you'd both get some kind of reward, some free supercharging, maybe some swag like a piece of luggage or like a handbag or something. They just gave out random stuff, a T-shirt, whatever. At a certain point, they had like really high level of rewards where if you got to like 50 referrals, like dude, you sold 50 cars, they can afford to cut you a little more than a T-shirt. So they would give you like 4 21-inch erract-in wheels or something like that for free, which is crazy. At the very, very highest level of the program, they added, once they unveiled the 2020 Roadster, if you get to this like final level, every additional Tesla referral that you make will be 2% off of a Roadster.
Yep.
And now the thing about this program is some people have referred so many people that they've filled up 100% off of a Roadster and 100% off of a second Roadster, and they've just continued referring. And so there's people out there who are going to get, Andy Sly is one of them. I think he's going to get 2 free Roadsters according to how the program works, which will be really interesting to see. I don't know how they're going to handle it as far as taxes and capital gains and whatever else they're planning for. I think I earned 1.5 free Roadsters. Okay. So does that mean I'm going to get a free one and then get half off the second one? Or I don't know what that turns into. So, but yeah, that car is going to be, I'm excited for that car.
Any update when that's going to be coming?
No, all we have is tweets. It's probably next year. Probably.
I mean, so Elon Musk, right? He follows you on Twitter. I think you're one of the very few people that he follows. Mm-hmm. How does it? Can you just like DM him sometime and be like, "Yo, dude, where's my Roadster?"
I've DM'd him. I try not to bother him because he's a busy guy. But yeah, that's obviously a pretty unique contact to have. No, I think that car's like dessert. He's talked about it in podcasts in the past. Like every time someone brings up, he's like, "Well, we should probably do Cybertruck first, and then the semi-truck, and then we should like ramp production on the Y. Like we got a bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah.
So the Roadster, it's gonna be like the last thing, but it'll be worth the wait. I hope.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, that would be cool. Looking forward to that. And the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Man, because that thing when it came, I was just like, I actually woke up and it was like middle of the night, and I was like, I thought I was dreaming. I was like, really, what's going on here? And then I actually kind of woke up and it kind of processed. And initially I was like, I think you shared that GIF which summarized it perfectly. It's just like, what is that? And then afterwards, like, actually,
yeah.
Are you genuinely gonna like? Do you think you'll move on to that as your main car?
No. I like my car as my main daily car, but listen, I'm in the Northeast in the U.S. Like, there's 2 feet of snow on the side of the road right now. Like there's a couple instances where it really makes sense to have a utility vehicle, and turns out this should be kind of the ultimate utility vehicle. I don't need it. Let me get that straight. I don't need it. That thing is crazy. But yeah, there's a couple interesting use cases for it that made sense for me to get in line for a reservation, and we'll see if it's everything it's chalked up to be when it actually comes out. But I just think it'll be crazy to see it on the road. But I won't daily that. That's kind of wild. That's like asking people to look at you when you drive that, you know?
That's a good
I don't
point.
think I could do it.
That's a good point. I mean, I just remember when I tweeted Elon, and I'm saying Elon like he's my mate. Like, he doesn't follow me on Twitter yet, but like when I just tweeted him, it's like, hey, a matte black one would be sick, and he's like, sure, and then it just like blew up, and I was just like, okay, now I have to pre-order it. I don't have a choice. So yeah, mine is on pre-order. I'm looking forward to it. I think I will actually move on to it as my daily, just to kind of see how it is to drive on the tight roads of the UK. Man, it's going to be fun.
That's going to be a massive, because I know in the UK cars are typically smaller in Europe. Like they're planning allegedly an even smaller car than the Model 3, and you drive a Model 3. Everyone I talk to who has a Model 3 who drives a Model S is like, dude, this car is huge. It's like a boat. The steering radius is way bigger. Like it's a bigger car for sure. So I feel like you and a Cybertruck out there is going to be like, you're going to be looking down at everybody, like the tops of people's cars.
That's what I want to do, though. It's just going to be fun. I just love it for the meme aspect, just, driving around with the Cybertruck in the small roads of the UK. It'll be fun. But no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. While we're on the topic of Teslas, I saw you tweeted an image of you found a car, and it had Tesla, and it had the number plate MKBHD. Bit of a mystery there. You still don't know whose it was, right?
I still don't know who it is. Honestly, I think it's better that way. Because it's been in our subreddit. Like it comes up, like people will spot it in public. It's probably a Tesla employee because it's in their parking lot all the time. But it's like driving around California or whatever. And the license plate is MKBHD. I'm like, I wouldn't get MKBHD as my license plate. So somebody out there, I don't know if it's an accident or if they just really wanted to get that plate. Somebody who works for Tesla has a blue Model 3 with the MKBHD license plate. And when I went to shoot the Model Y 2 years ago now, we were in the parking lot and we saw the car sitting there. We're like, it's right here. Bro, it's sitting right in front of me, and I don't want to know who it is. I feel like it's better that way. It's a mystery.
So I was speaking to my cousin the other day, and he brought it up, and he was like, "Oh, Marques tweeted about this, right?" And then he was just like, "If you ever get him on a podcast, I've got a theory." So he's got a theory about this, right?
Sure.
It's actually your car, but it's you in the future.
Oh. Ooh. Interesting.
So you've come back in time, right? You've the future you, but obviously you guys can't meet because the universe is going to implode. All right. So he has to the future you has to kind of keep it low, but this might explain how you get everything 2 weeks early because he might be sending you messages.
That's true. Yeah, man. And he knows where I'm going to be, so he knows how to like not run into me and ruin the universe. He knows. Exactly.
But he can be dropping subtle hints which you might not even realize. And this is why you know about everything 2 weeks before anybody else does. Boom. There you go. I think that's a good theory.
I like that. I like that theory. I went with blue just to throw people off.
Yeah, because obviously if you went for a matte black, then they'd know it's you, right? So yeah. Shout out to Cass for that theory. All right. Now, I kind of want to, because one of the things that doing what we do is not the daily average thing that people do, right? One of the things that I always kind of find tricky is when people ask me, what do I do? Now, obviously, the typical answer is YouTuber, but we're not just YouTubers, right? We do lots of other things as well. I've heard you say that you hate the word influencer. I'm interested to know why that is.
It sort of implies that our primary goal is to influence. People ask, what do you do? I say video producer because I feel like that's what most of the hours go into, and it's also just like the most understandable thing. Oh, you're in the back of an Uber. Someone's like, so what do you do? Videos. And they're like, oh, you're doing a video now? I'm like, yep. He's like, all right, cool, I get it. Like, that's fine. I could deal with that. I don't want to explain YouTube. But yeah, when people say influencer, it's like I professionally influence people. Like maybe, I don't know if that's even true. I mean, it's a byproduct.
Dude, 400 Teslas. Like, that's like, okay, let's do some quick math here, right? Say the average Tesla is $50,000, give or take. Okay, because some of them are obviously more. The Tesla Model 3, the base model is a little bit less. $50,000 times 400. That's like what, 20 million?
Yeah.
Quick math.
Yeah.
You've shifted $20 million worth of cars.
It sounds like I'm doing it on purpose when you put it that way, but I think it's true. I think people use the word because it's an obvious industry. It's a big byproduct of what we do. So if we're reviewing things, the natural evolution of that is people following the advice and making the purchase decision based on our review. So if I went into this saying, my goal is to get you to buy something, I'm going to influence you to purchase this, that's a little different from me going, here's the thing, let me tell you everything you need to know about it and whether I think it's a good buy or not, on to the next one. If you happen to be influenced by that, great. I don't know. I just think the word's a little weird.
No, I think the way you put it is really, really good because at the end of the day, it's you're not going intentionally out there to influence people to do something. But I think it is actually good for brands because my partnership manager, Thunder, from Board at Work, he loves it because he he will use it to pitch to brands because that's language that brands understand, right? So there's like, okay, when you're doing a brand partnership, it's just like, okay, you've got this influencer here to that. In their language, that makes sense, right? So, but I totally feel you. I never refer to myself as an influencer. Apart from on my website, I do have the term influencer just for SEO purposes because I'm like, okay, if a brand is coming over and kind of looking for a tech influencer, that's what they're going to be searching for.
That's what exactly. It's about the language of who you're talking to. So if you're in that world where you're trying to explain to an advertiser what you do, sure, I get it. You can use the word and they will understand that language. But if I'm at a family reunion and they're like, what do you do again? And I'm like, I'm an influencer. They're like, what? Do you do TikTok? Like, what is going on? Like, I don't want to, that's too much.
No, so, I mean, speaking of like getting in a family gathering sort of thing. So I'm interested to know, because this is something I've experienced as well. It's like, what did your like family, parents, etc. think when you started this about what you do compared to what they think now?
When I started, I was in high school, so I didn't tell anybody, because I was just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And so, I think one day they found it, and my parents like called me down to like the family dinner table, and they were like, "So, tech videos on YouTube, huh?" And I was just like, "Oh, yeah, you found it. Yeah, that's what I do." and they were just kind of like, it was at that point I was like, I'm 15 or 14, so they're just like, take your safety seriously, like don't dox yourself, meaning don't show your address, don't use your real name, like be smart about being online with your face as a child, because that's what a parent would want.
Of course.
I think now it's like kind of, I mean, I think they understand it because they've been in the world for a little bit. I think it's a little more understood. It's a real job now. When I did this as a hobby, 0 people did it as a real job. There was no partner program, no AdSense, no ad share revenue. It's a real job now. I think people are starting to get it.
Yeah, for sure. And it is, I mean, it's obviously a very unique job, and it's something that a lot of people recognize you for as well, right? They see you online, they kind of develop almost a friendship with you, essentially, right? And, we've been at tech events where there's literally lines of people coming over to try to take pictures with you. I remember when we were at Dub, I'm not sure if you recall, there was like a line of people, and a couple of them were to take pictures of me as well, but most of them were there for you. Does that happen a lot, just generally, like when you're out in public?
No, because I think mostly nerds stay inside, so it's great. I think it really depends on where I go. Like, obviously, I meet people and they'll like, oh, like I got this phone because of you. It's great to see you, and that's cool. I think when I go to tech events, like then you see like a lot of people in the world who we all like know each other already. So like CES has always been like the craziest thing. There's so many versions of like, I need to get from this floor to this floor in like half an hour, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it because I'm going to be stopping too many times. So it just depends on where I'm at. Normally it's fine.
That's right. And now, like online, obviously, do you ever look at your DMs? Like, it must be crazy.
Twitter, I have Twitter DMs. Only people that I follow or that I DM can DM me on Twitter. So I use that.
But like, do you ever like have a peek at the Instagram DM requests?
Oh, it's chaos. Yeah, it's useless.
Yeah.
Completely useless.
It's crazy. And I mean,
'Cause,
I'm sure. Yeah, sorry.
Well, because people like literally, I don't know if they do this. They probably do this to you too. They'll literally add me to like a random group chat with like Jay-Z and Barack Obama, like for no reason. Like they'll just add people. So like it's actually useless for me.
It's just crazy because I actually I do dabble in now and then just to kind of have a quick because sometimes you might miss some an actual genuine message. So I kind of like dabble in. But yeah, there's people like they'll add me and you, then there'll be Kim Kardashian for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know where the link comes from there, but anyway, and then they'll just start. But like your emails as well. Like, okay, so right now, one of the things I get all the time is people asking you to collab, to be on their podcast, to all sorts. I mean, your list must be absolutely crazy. Like, obviously, you can't feature in everybody's YouTube channel and collab with everybody and be on everybody's podcast. How do you select which ones to take seriously, which ones to actually get involved in?
Yeah, I say no to 99.99999% of the things that I get asked in my inbox. It's just too much. It's really just like what makes sense and what I want to do, which is a pretty great position to be in. I'll get hundreds of emails a day, and 75% of them are absolute garbage. It's just like, dear sir/madam, would you like to cooperation with us? Just like, nah, I can't. Delete, like whatever. I can't even answer those. I just archive them. Then there's a good amount of like proper consideration type stuff, because I know you've talked to about brand deals in the past. Like, you really think about it. You go back and forth on like, what are we thinking about? What would make sense here? Can we offer something? Does it make sense to work with them? And then like we narrow it down to the 1%, and we'll figure out what actually makes sense to execute on. It's really just what makes sense, what feels right.
No, and I appreciate you. I appreciate that I'm that 0.01% that you agreed to kind of come onto the podcast, man. And I just want to say as well, because many years ago when I first reached out to you to collaborate, right? You and I've thrown some crazy ideas at you. It's like, let's do this, and you've always agreed. So I appreciate that, man. But like, what's interesting is when I initially kind of did the end of your collaboration, there was a few people who just didn't respond, which is understandable. They're probably busy, but there was a couple of people who kind of said, "Oh, sorry, no." They didn't really understand what the format was, right? And then when they saw the video, they were like, "Oh yeah, can I be in the next one?" Sort of a thing, right? So I gotta say, like, I want to give you a shout out, just like on a personal level, that I really appreciate you and you taking the time out to kind of do these collaborations, because not everybody does. So thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of reminds me of like I've done some of these like really big detailed projects where like I'll reach out to people to either be a part of it or be interviewed, and they'll either not respond or something. Then the video goes out, and then after that video, I'll start getting reached out separately by like the same groups of people of like, "Hey, would you like to also cover our version?" It's like, you missed the boat. Sorry, it's too late.
It's gone. It's gone. No, but that's super interesting. That like just the way the dynamic of that works. Now, mention brand deals, right? So I'm interested in the brand deal side of things, because that's something that we do. Now, I remember kind of listening to a breakdown that you said, and I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, but like 40% is AdSense, 50% is like integrations, and then 10% is around merch. Is that roughly about right?
That's probably still pretty close. I think it's probably. You said 60% brand deals. Is that what you said?
50% brand deals.
It's probably a little more than that now. I think our goal was to not be as dependent on AdSense as we can. I mean, AdSense is great, but if you can not be fluctuating that much during the year, that's ideal. So we try to organize our own. So I think it's probably something like 60-something% for our own organized ads, and then 30 to 40 AdSense, and then we sneak some merch in there too. It's a little side biz,
No, that's good. I do want to talk about the merch, but before I move on to that, like I see you do a lot of integrations, and I think the sort of gold standard of integrations is Linus, right? It's just like every video has an integration, and it's done so well that it just works, right? But I don't see you do many full sponsored videos. Is there a particular reason for that?
Yeah, I've always been under my philosophy when I make a video is I'm going to make something I would want to watch. And if I start there for every video, usually that wipes out 99% of the sponsored video options because it's just not that good of a video. But if you can find something that works where you can share, you can shed the light shed the right light on it, or present it in a certain way where it works, then it's fun. But I just never really liked watching fully sponsored videos. And there are some exceptions. Obviously, there are some gold standards and really well done executions, but generally, I just never liked watching them. Yeah. And so I've had a tendency to leave lots of digits on the table because it just isn't good.
No, I totally feel you there, man. Now, for brand deals, obviously you work with a lot of brands. Are there any particular brands or a particular brand deal that really stands out to you that was awesome, that just worked really well and it just flowed, and that was like a highlight, kind of like a gold standard of what you'd like to do, what you like brand deals to be like?
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like dbrand they always come up because they are incredibly easy to work with. You've worked with brands before, so you'll know when I say like working with a brand is a special level of patience and challenge of like going back and forth on creative ideas and execution, and they want you to read the script and you want to do it in your own voice, and it's just a whole thing. So anytime you get a company like dbrand especially, or I'll throw in Honey was another one, where the reason they're working with a creator is so that they can not only talk to that creator's audience, but in that creator's own language. You got to trust that that creator knows how to convey things to their audience. You convey things to the creator, they translate that for their own audience. So whenever you get like a list of bullet points of like, you must say this, you must say this, and you must say this, I'm already like, we're never working together again. If this is as long as you're going to keep doing this, it's not happening. So yeah, I'd say dbrand sticks out. They happen to make accessories for like everything we review. So yeah, they're kind of everywhere.
I think dbrand, yeah. I mean, I should have totally got them to sponsor this podcast. You know what I mean? Because dbrand, like, I think it's the easiest one. Super chilled. I mean, they're totally savage on Twitter as well, which I love. Yeah. But yeah, I got to give a shout out to dbrand. A lot of people kind of ask why does every tech YouTuber work with dbrand? And it's like what you said. They make great products. They're so easy to work with. They understand the platform and how everything works, and they're super flexible. So that's a perfect recipe for a long-term partnership as well, because I think I've been working with dbrand for 6 years probably longer actually.
Yeah, something like that. And here we are talking about them for free, so they're clearly doing something right. Anytime you hear like, why does everybody always seem to do deals with insert brand here, it's probably because they're doing something right. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. On the flip side of that, are there any brand deals that you've initially agreed to, and then, again, no specifics, obviously, but something that you've agreed to, and then kind of like halfway in, you're thinking, oh man, like I've signed the contract, everything, I do have to do this, but man, I wish I hadn't, and I'm definitely not doing this again.
Yeah, that happens from time to time. Like I said, you always get to a point of like agreeing to the general idea and figuring out like, okay, I can see the way this video would go in my head. I can see that people would really actually appreciate this. And 9 times out of 10, we can make it work. And then that one time where you're like, seriously, you can't budge on that exact phrasing of that cringy sentence? Really? Really? A hashtag? Really? Like, then it's kind of, then you're like, I don't know, this doesn't seem like a great idea. But I think I'm luckily in a position where I'm able to turn down so many things that I think have the potential to not be a great fit, that I should be grateful for that position, because some people don't have that choice all the time. So I mean, we're lucky to be able to say no.
Yeah, you deservedly so, man. I mean, I think you've established yourself to a point where you can do that, and it's not a case of you've just got there overnight. It's obviously been years, literally a large chunk of your life, maybe the largest chunk of your life so far, that you've actually spent building this, right? So I think it's deservedly so. Yes, obviously, being grateful is key, but also there is a lot of work that's gone to actually come to that point.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so we try.
Yeah, man. And we mentioned merch, and one of the things that I really like about your merch, right? Because this is no criticism to any of the YouTubers, but like, the general sort of thing is like, okay, you're just going to use one of these services. Again, I'm not going to name these services, but just slap your logo on a t-shirt and then start selling it. And to a point for smaller creators, that's actually a good way to kind of get into it, right? But what I really liked about when you launched your merch, right, was that it was well thought out. Little details like the labels, the quality was something that was on point. How is the merch thing been going for you? And how do you come up with the different designs and things?
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. That's something we do want to double down on. Is like the original idea was to make things that work in the tech world, where like if you get it, you get it. But you can also just wear like a cool design and it doesn't feel like you're just wearing somebody's face on your shirt or somebody's name or logo. We had an old design that was just literally, and because we worked with a different company on this and they pitched some ideas at us. They were like, trust me, this will be great. And we pitched some ideas at them. We launched the store and we can see which ones work and which ones don't. But yeah, it's really just about making thoughtful, interesting, original pieces instead of just cranking out just to crank out merch. So matte black everything shirt, maybe some phrase that you kind of know from the tech world, but if it's a cool design, you'll wear it anyway. Like that stuff, I like that stuff.
It's awesome. I really do like it. Now you mentioned about your face on merch.
Oh God.
Man, I remember seeing some things pop up, unofficial merch, should we say, where there was your face on comforters, bed sheets, all sorts. And this seems to have happened a few times, I believe. Once, actually, there was somebody who was using your logo, which was actually an established brand and selling, How often has that happened and how do you deal with it?
Luckily, it hasn't happened much, but there are some sites that will shamelessly rip things off, and all I have to do is ping my attorney and be like, hey, you see that? That's not cool, right? And she'll go, yep, nope, we can take care of that. So, a lot of times it's fine. Like they'll like randomly, I don't know, list one. Sometimes you can see it's not malicious, like a site that just like hosts third-party designs and other people upload their own designs or whatever. But sometimes you can see it's like rampant and out of control and there's just like too much of it. I'll just name drop the one because that was the like obvious one is Redbubble, where like people make their own designs, but like there was like 70 different MKBHD things that they were selling and profiting from actively, and these things were being sent to me. You talk about Instagram DMs, I would randomly get messages or tweets at me of like, I got this thing, look at this MKBHD merch I got, and I'm looking at this tweet like, that's not our merch. You just bought like a horrible quality, you got ripped off, you're gonna have a bad experience, you're not gonna wanna buy future MKBHD merch, you're gonna say bad things about MKBHD merch because whatever you bought is garbage. So we wanted to take care of that stuff, and luckily our attorney can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. And but how does it feel? How does it feel knowing that there's somebody out there with a bed sheet with your face all over it and probably just kind of like going to sleep every day?
I really hope nobody bought that. I don't know how many sales there were of any of these ripped off things, but I'm really hoping nobody bought that.
Oh man, that was when you posted that, I was just like, wow, seriously? It's just like, a blanket with Marques's face all over it.
It's crazy.
I'm glad that doesn't exist. I mean, you could always see the sale numbers. I mean, if they did sell quite a few, then maybe that's a merch idea. JK. Now on social media, so obviously YouTube is your primary thing, and we've seen that. But I'm interested, because obviously you do other things as well. Like you're on other platforms as well. How would you order the different platforms? YouTube is obviously going to be number one. I think I already know what they're going to be, but what would be number two?
So you mean like in terms of importance to me, I guess?
In terms of importance and how much you like the platforms.
Interesting. So yeah, YouTube one. I really like Twitter. I would probably put Twitter. Yeah, Twitter's two. I mean, you get to talk to anyone. Anyone can tweet at you, get your notifications going, like really interact with people. It feels pretty good. I like Twitter. It can get crazy, obviously, but I'll put that at number two. I think I would put Instagram at number three. I'm trying to do a little more with Instagram's tools to like have more fun over there. Like I feel like I'm lately just kind of like posting a picture because I should post a picture, right? And then it's like hang out in the comments for a bit and leave. Like I don't know. I'm trying to do more, but I'll put Instagram at number three. Then you just kind of have like the podcast platforms, and I think Clubhouse is coming up, but I think that top three is pretty clear.
Top three there. Now, would you say the others, you kind of mentioned about Instagram, would you say they're still an extension of your YouTube channel, or do you kind of treat them as a separate entity in their own right?
So I try to treat them as if they live alone by themselves, which is weird because I used to hate repurposing content. And this is just me, because I know a lot of people do this. They shoot a YouTube video and then they'll have an editor trim that down and post that on Instagram, that on Facebook video, that on Reels. Like, that's just a thing that happens a lot. And I hate that, because I was like, I want people to follow everywhere. And so if I post the same thing everywhere, they're going to be like, why am I following all of these? Let me just unfollow and just follow like Twitter, because I'm just going to get the same thing. So, but I've sort of adjusted that stance. I like to think of them as separate. If someone wants to just follow on Twitter and nowhere else, they will get the full MKBHD experience as a Twitter version. If they want to just follow on Instagram and nowhere else, they'll still see all the latest gadgets. They'll still see everything everywhere. Just because I put it on Twitter doesn't mean they won't see it on the gram, but it'll be the Instagram version. And I think that sort of native approach to posting and sharing and interacting is better. That's just my opinion. And so sometimes they do point to YouTube because that's our bread and butter. But every chance I get, I like to deliver a better experience without you having to leave the platform, because that's what the platforms want.
100%. And, there was an interesting thing. I actually heard it on Philip DeFranco's video, but it was about, so PewDiePie, obviously YouTube, massive creator, he's going to be live streaming on Facebook, right? And a lot of people were like, but it's not exclusive. So he can carry on doing his stuff on YouTube, but he's now got this deal with Facebook. And one of the guys that was kind of setting this deal up, he was just like, only 20% of Facebook users also watch streams on YouTube. So there's a whole 80% that's a completely different audience. And that I found super interesting. And I was just like, okay, so, maybe there are different audiences. And I'm starting to notice that more as well as I'm using a lot more of these apps.
Yeah, and I was talking to Austin Evans about this, where he was preaching to me about, dude, you should upload to Facebook video. And I'm like, what? Gary Vee told me the same thing. He was like, you should be uploading to Facebook video. It's an audience that does not know you exist outside of YouTube. And I'm like, it's Facebook. Like, there's no search engine. If they type iPhone review in the search box on Facebook, it's not going to come up. But sure enough, if you start uploading a Facebook video and do it the right way and sort of organically grow that stuff, it's a different audience. It's a totally new audience, and the Venn diagram overlap is small enough that it makes sense.
Yeah, because I've seen you like post more videos on Facebook now as well. So I've seen them. They pop up in the square format, which is obviously different to YouTube. And yeah, I mean, Facebook. What is your opinion on Facebook video? Because Facebook, I mean, when we look at video platforms for long form video content, there's YouTube, and then there's really no other competitor. Anyone that kind of has the power and the reach to kind of come somewhat close is Facebook, right?
Yeah. The thing we always seem to leave out of these, and I just brought it up a second ago, is the search part, where Google is the biggest search engine in the world. YouTube's the second biggest search engine in the world. If you want to grow organically, you've got to succeed in search somewhere. And Facebook videos don't really come up like that in YouTube search, obviously, and on Google. So if you want to use their tools and have things spread and share, that's great. But obviously YouTube has the advantage of, like, when someone wants to look up the latest thing, where do they go?
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. No, that's totally right. And also the AdSense platform. I mean, so I started posting more on YouTube, Facebook recently over the past few months, and it's definitely starting to grow. But my last check came from Facebook for Facebook ads. $12 whole. So, and again, I think it comes down to people come specifically to YouTube to consume a specific type of content, and they will stay there, watch that content, see the ads, and that's why you get the revenue from it as well. Whereas Facebook, they'll probably come across your video on the timeline, maybe after they've watched another video. They've not specifically come to watch that video, and I think that's definitely a key difference there.
Definitely. It's a discovery thing. It also comes down to just format. So like you said, it's the discovery is going to be stumbling across it instead of searching for it. So how do you optimize your video's presentation for stumbling across it? Maybe you really have to optimize the first few seconds visually to catch people's attention, versus YouTube, where it's like, all right, I want the click-through rate and the thumbnail and title to be great, but I have a little extra time because you chose to click on this video to get into the thing and make this a better longer term experience. So you got to think to optimize that way.
Yeah, you get a balance. Now, one of the new and fastest growing social media platforms recently is, of course, TikTok. And you recently, I mean, few months ago, joined TikTok.
Yeah.
What are you? Because I mean, this is the thing. Because when I initially joined, man, I got a lot of hate. People are like, "Why are you joining TikTok?" And it was like, I'm unfollowing you across your other platforms because you joined TikTok. I'm interested to hear why you joined TikTok and what you think of the platform.
Yeah, okay. First of all, the people who are saying they hate you joining TikTok and they unfollowed, they weren't real fans to begin with. Don't worry about them. Yeah. Second, TikTok has had this reputation because it came from Musical.ly, and it's built so much on, like, who are the top stars? The D'Amelios, Addison Rae, it's kids dancing and lip syncing, like that's what they think of. But the thing about TikTok that I think is the reason you and I joined is they've got this powerful algorithm that surfaces relevant content really quickly. And like tons of it, you just keep scrolling and they figured you out. And why not check it out? Why not give it a shot? My challenge is still, I want to make more TikToks. I want to specifically, though, make TikToks. Again, using the native platform tools. I don't want to make a video and then find a snip from it and put it on TikTok. I want to make TikToks. And that's the best way to do it. But I have 1 million followers on TikTok out of nowhere because I've just been occasionally just experimenting with it. Like, there's no way you don't want to take advantage of a platform that's doing that much with their algorithm. And hopefully they monetize, they figure out how to keep creators around because, they all want to leave for YouTube, right?
This is the thing, isn't it? It's just like the goal is you kind of build up somewhere else and the end goal is YouTube. But with TikTok, it was interesting because, you mentioned the what they're known for. And like, I think TikTok's actively been trying to kind of get away from just the whole dance thing because it is a platform. And what you post on that platform, because one of the things I was saying was somebody was saying that, all TikTok is twerking videos, right? So I'm like, well, the algorithm bases it on what you like to watch. So, I don't know what you're watching.
Your TikTok is all twerking videos, and they know what you like, bro. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's interesting because they reached out to me and they were like, we'd love to have you on the platform. And I was just like, I wanted to come on there anyway, but I was like, hey, they're gonna, this is actually gonna be a good partnership. Starting posting there, and as you're saying, it's very different, but it's definitely something you can't ignore because there is so much reach, and the audience is also very, very different. I think that overlap in terms of the audience you find there is very different to the audience that you have on YouTube.
Yeah, and that'll be key. Is like, can they keep people on TikTok? Because if the audience overlap is that low, that's a new group of people. Will that group of people stay on TikTok and just watch your TikToks, or can you successfully get those new people onto YouTube where you can actually monetize? It's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, YouTube's trying to get the TikTok a lot by introducing YouTube Shorts. Mm-hmm. Have you played around? I've not seen you play around with YouTube Shorts. What are your thoughts on it?
So I think it's really interesting. I like that YouTube, as this giant that they are, can be as agile as they are and immediately try this new thing and respond to the growth and virality of TikTok. But it's kind of like buying a first-gen tech product. I'm not going to go all in on it now, despite its potential, because I know there's going to be quirks and downsides, and I know there's future optimizations they're going to work on. So I'll let YouTube do the experimenting for me. And if they decide this is really working, we're doubling down, shorts are going to be on the homepage, like then we start to see a reason to invest our time in it. But at the moment, it would be insane to be doing YouTube Shorts and not TikTok. I should be doing TikToks.
All right, we're going to be seeing more TikToks from Marques.
Yeah.
Another place where we've been seeing you, and we've been in a few rooms together, is Clubhouse. Now, obviously, this has kind of come up. And it's been great having those conversations. What are your views on Clubhouse so far? And where do you see it going?
Yeah, I've been on Clubhouse a little bit lately, sort of just listening to conversations. That's what it's been fun for. I think my favorite part about it is that unless somebody's recording, it disappears. And so you can have all kinds of conversations and poll people and have this really, really high level engagement without really thinking about if this is going to live on forever. Because on every other social media platform, except for Instagram stories, which I found this to also be true about, people are a little unwilling to post and share less polished things. On YouTube, how polished are our videos? Like Saf, we spend hours on this polish, and like Instagram photos and all our tweets. We don't want to make typos because you can't edit tweets. So we're really thinking hard about how this stuff lives forever. And on Clubhouse and on Instagram stories, you kind of just post, engage, and then once you're done, you've gotten that value for yourself, and then it's over. And that part is really interesting to me. So I've thought about like engaging with like random topics and like drafting video ideas through conversations and like figuring out what people want to hear about. I've always thought about thumbnail A/B testing on Instagram stories because it's going to be gone, and like no one has to see the rough drafts, and they can like engage like honestly and truthfully in there. I feel like Clubhouse is something. It's got something like that to it, but I'm still sort of lurking and figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is going to happen when the clones from the giants start coming in? Because obviously Twitter Spaces is on the way, and it's going to be, when it gets rolled out, do you think it's going to be a case of, okay, I've already got my audience on Twitter. Is there any use of me using Clubhouse? Is it better just for me to use Twitter Spaces instead? Yeah,
it's interesting. It might be a reputation thing, and like what you really get value out of. If your ideal is to engage with a big like as much audience as possible, then the established ones will win for you because you have your audience there already. I think part of what made TikTok so interesting is I don't have any followers on TikTok. So the people who are there, or the most hyper engaged that like found it and like want to get in there, and 5 million people on Twitter, if I open a room to the public like I do on Clubhouse, like what does that turn into? I don't even know. It's insane. So I kind of like the what's the word? Not privacy, the intimacy maybe of like having a smaller group. And it depends on what Clubhouse's reputation is by the time they like get fully cloned.
So Marques, I heard you referred to yourself as an octopus.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that analogy, and I kind of want to get this in video form, and because I think it's going to be so useful. It was very useful for me personally, and I think it will be useful for a lot of people. So can you explain that analogy a little bit?
Sure. So we were talking earlier about like what is our job as a YouTube tech reviewer. When you break it down, it's kind of a lot of, in order to do it well at a high level, it's a lot of different jobs in one. This applies to a lot of creative industries. But as a tech YouTuber, for example, you have to be a professional product tester, a professional writer if you're scripting your stuff, a professional video producer. So you have to set up the camera, the lighting, the audio, all that stuff. You're a professional on-camera talent now too, because you have to talk to that camera and present those ideas in the script. You're a professional editor, and you have to manage all the inbox and the sponsor deals. You are the financial accountant. You are the products, the strategist for all the content. It's a lot, okay? And the idea of like building a team and scaling a creative job like this, to me, felt like if you're an octopus and you've got 8 arms and each one of your arms is holding a different brush and doing a different thing at the same time. I guess this is what I found interesting about octopi, is they have a brain in each arm. They have 9 brains and 3 hearts. This is wild. I didn't know this before I looked it up. And so to me, hiring an editor, for example, feels like chopping off the editing arm, handing it to someone who's really good, and letting them teach that brain and that arm to do more than it ever could with you trying to focus on everything at once. And so this sort of strategy of like using your expertise and communicating and training that person to do better with that arm than you ever could with the same vision is the challenge. But an octopus, like I mentioned, has 3 hearts, and it feels like the challenge sometimes is chopping off something, handing it to someone, realizing that's actually pretty core and integral to what this creative thing is. The vision. Sometimes if you're a YouTuber, it's the edit or it's the product review itself, and you can't quite chop that off. That's one of your hearts, and you kind of have to keep in mind what those core things are and what those arms are that you can attach to others and let them grow with. So that was my analogy. I don't know if it's a perfect analogy, but I just find octopi fascinating, and I think that worked a little bit on Twitter.
I liked it, man. I thought it was because that's one of the things I'm personally struggling with is like finding the right people and then trying to let things go because I'm a bit of a control freak, especially when it comes to the channel and
we all are
because
yeah.
That's me. It's my face. It's my brand. So that's something that I'm definitely trying to learn, and I absolutely love that analogy. Now, speaking of your team, obviously I've met Andrew, Vin, Brandon. Awesome team. And you are now in the process of expanding that team. And I saw you put out the list, right, of all the new people that you're trying to hire. And I was like, Marques, the MKBHD empire is now underway. And I love it. And I'm super interested to see like at what stage is that now, and how many people will there be at the end of 2021 as part of the MKBHD team? So that now versus then.
Right. Okay. So you've met Andrew, Vin, and Brandon, and I. That's 4. We have Michael, who is a ridiculously talented motion graphics specialist. So I took one motion graphics course in college, and I learned After Effects, and I can do the work. But I cut that arm off so fast. Michael came to me unsolicited and emailed me and said, "Hey, new year, new intro. I saw you have this old intro," which I'd worked with an older artist named Eden who'd made it. And that was a whole back and forth of a couple of weeks to make that intro. He said, "Would you like an updated version of that intro? I do motion graphics. Let's see if I can do something." I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I sort of gave him a couple of ideas. And that day, he recreated Eden's intro from scratch and then gave me a few ideas of different versions. I was like, holy this guy's good. This guy is good. So I cut that arm off so fast, and he's been amazing for sending him files. Now, he's in the Bay Area. We were going to have him move here at the beginning of the pandemic. It turned into a kind of a crazy idea, so we're delaying that a bit. But that was one more. And then, so we've had, I don't know if I want to say exactly what we're doing, but I think, so that would be 5. I think by the end of 2021, there will be at least 8 and potentially 9 or 10. Okay. Depending on how intensive the jobs get, because we got big plans, man. We've got new channels, we've got new products, we've got new series, we've got all kinds of new stuff we're doing in addition to the videos that we already like making. Man. So it's going to be good, but I think you might see it double.
Okay. Well, I'm super excited because this is something that I think, this next step of this expansion, like it's going to bring a lot of new content. And I mean, I'm 100% sure that it's going to be super, super successful, but it's super interesting to kind of see this kind of go from, your journey of, making videos in your bedroom, but it's also inspiring, like, for somebody like me, as I pretty much do everything myself. I've got my brother working with me who helps out here and there, but yeah, it's something that I definitely need to sort of look at. So it's inspiring. Obviously, I don't want you to kind of give away your master plans, but is there something that you've already talked about that you can kind of share a little bit about?
Yeah, so Waveform, my own podcast, we're doing, and we've been doing it, like focusing on really getting good at like podcasting. Like we knew we wanted to do a podcast because we have these conversations at the studio where I'll turn around at my desk, I'll just be like, "Hey everybody, hot take," and I'll just like spit out something, and we just have like an hour-long conversation about that piece of tech, and it's like, end scene. Like, what if we recorded that? Like, that's obviously a valuable conversation. So we're doing a podcast, and we're planning on making that video version this year. So we obviously need to add camera setups and start editing it and make channels for it and strategize around the content to not just be another video podcast, but to be able to do it as well as we can, to offer unique value, to do it, hopefully to give people a reason to watch it. So that's definitely one of the things that we're focusing on for this year.
Awesome. I mean, that's one of the things I was going to ask you, because I remember when you started the podcast and you mentioned you really wanted to nail down the audio before you moved on to video. And I one of the reasons why I started my podcast was, listening to your podcast, seeing Lou later, Jenna and Justine. And, I was like, you know what, like, as you were talking about, like, just having these conversations And it's like, you know what, if we recorded these, then, you know, we could actually share them with everybody else. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. So I was just like, all right, I made the podcast. But one of the things that for me was really missing is because I listen to podcasts, but I consume clips, right? And one of the things I was like, man, Marques is missing out, because if this was a clip on YouTube, as you know, Joe Rogan does, right? Because a lot of Joe Rogan as well, I absolutely love his podcast. And sometimes if you're on it, or, you know, if Elon's on, I'll listen to the full podcast. But generally, I'll only watch the clips, right?
Yep.
And I think, again, that's one of the things that I saw on Lou, just doing those clips. And I was like, I love these little clips because they're just natural, conversational. And I'm totally going to be milking this podcast and making it into a lot of clips as well, just FYI.
Absolutely. But that's the thing about the podcast world is like, we're so used to SEO and search. And the more we dove into this podcast world, the more we got educated on it and realized just how bad search is for podcasts. And like, we made this clever WVFRM name, and then we work with Studio 71 on this, and they're telling us like, that's great and that's really clever, but like, no one's going to know how to find that unless you add MKBHD or something else to the name, at least, for people to find it. So we're learning a lot. But clips are a discoverability engine for the rest of the podcast. So when you have clips show up on the homepage, or you search for a topic and a clips video shows up and you see that conversation, sometimes you're drawn to, I want to hear the rest of this conversation. You go watch the video. So yeah, it's a no-brainer strategy, and we're going to try to make some adjustments and do it even better, but I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. I mean, I think that's just something that I think a lot of people also want to see. And, you know, seeing the success Lou's had, for example, with those clips, because I love hearing his opinion on just a few of these topics, right? And I might not be interested in the full podcast of everything that he's talking about, but that one clip, I was like, I really want to know what Lou thinks. I really want to know what Marques thinks. So spot on. Is there anything else? Like, you know, obviously I'm somebody who's new to podcasting. This is the first time I wanted to kind of get into the flow before we started getting guests on. Is there something that you've learnt over the time of doing podcasts? You mentioned the SEO thing. That was super interesting. Is there anything else that you've kind of learnt that you didn't know when you started?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just the way you look at metrics. We are super in the YouTube world, like honed in on retention and what makes a good, successful YouTube video. We know what sort of numbers we're looking for. In the podcast world, I started listening to way more podcasts, and it's just a different consumption experience. It's a little bit more passive. You can have it on in the background. You have it on during your commute. It's just it's a different medium, and I think producing better content for that medium is different. It's not as visual and like quick, short attention span stuff. It's even more storytelling heavy, I think. Which in the tech world is fun because there's stories all the time. But I don't know. I'm always learning about it. I feel like I learn more from just listening to others and what makes other good podcasts good. But yeah, I don't think that process won't end anytime soon.
Yeah. Now I'm looking forward to how it all develops. Now on the YouTube side of things, I mean, you know, things obviously are going well, and when you start these new channels, it's going to be really interesting to see how those develop. The YouTube algorithm. Do you think you've figured out the YouTube algorithm? Because pretty much everybody else thinks that you've figured the YouTube algorithm out. So that's something that I want to ask you.
Well, there's a couple things about the YouTube algorithms. So one, it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. Two, it is an algorithm, but it is trained by humans, and these humans that work for YouTube have certain goals. And so three, I think if we as creators can understand the humans training the algorithms, then we can better understand what the algorithm will do. So I think we all kind of know certain things about, like, you want a lot of people to click the video, you want people to watch the video for a long time. The general consensus, though, if you sort of put everything into a bucket, is you want people to stay on YouTube as long as possible and be happy so that they continue to come back to YouTube. Mm-hmm. And the thing that does that is quality content. Now, you break that down into a bunch of different buckets. A high click-through rate suggests that your video had a good title and thumbnail. A high retention and maybe some engagement suggests that they had a good experience. They watched the entire video. It wasn't a misleading title and thumbnail. Mm-hmm. And then if you continue to click through and watch other videos, that suggests that your videos are related to each other and are giving this person a good experience. all of this is great for YouTube. They're serving more ads. They're keeping you on the site longer. They're growing their thing. The humans love this. So the humans are going to continue to train the algorithm to find and surface quality content that gives the video viewer a good time for a longer time. So anytime you're talking about, have I figured out the algorithm? No, it's a black box behind another, in a safe, locked behind a wall, whatever. I'm never going to know exactly what they train it to do, but I think we can sort of apply educated guesses to the way YouTube runs itself as a business. And I don't want to say cater to it, but I mean, you can learn a lot from what will succeed on YouTube before you even publish.
That's such an interesting way, and I've never had anybody kind of talk of it that way, where the algorithm kind of seems like a faceless machine. But I think what you said is obviously there's people behind it and they have the goals of YouTube. And that's such an interesting way to look at it. So yeah, I mean, that's spot on. Now, sometimes you kind of do everything right, or you think you do everything right. You have a great thumbnail, you have the retention, but a video just doesn't perform well. Do you ever have videos that you just think, oh man, that just did not do well?
All the time. And it's always fun to look back in hindsight and like figure out the why. Okay. I just had my last video. So my last 3 videos in a row, just so I know, have all been the 10 out of 10 worst video out of the last 10 I've uploaded. And yet, as a YouTuber, you see that and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What do I not know? And so I was working on this PS5 accessories video. I was like, this is the one. This is going to be, we're turning this ship around. This is going to be one of the best videos because it's a PS5. It's the most hyped thing we've ever seen. It's impossible to get. It's going to have a longer tail because this console stuff lasts a couple years instead of one. Loving this PS5 idea. I made a great video. Super excited to upload. Really dramatic, bright, colorful thumbnail. Even worse than the previous 9 videos. Another 10 out of 10. I was like, whoa, what do I not understand? And so you go back and you read comments and you start to figure out some of the subtleties of it, which is like, it won't have as big of a spike because the PS5 isn't in people's hands. And it was a PS5 accessories video, which isn't as exciting as the PS5 itself to people who don't have it, which is most people. So hindsight 2020. That video, I still think will have a longer tail, but a shorter initial spike, which is why it's a 10 out of 10. But I'm not too worried. You learn these things over time. You're not supposed to know everything. Nobody knows everything going into their next upload.
So, I mean, is it like a minimum views that you think that, which you like use to quantify for videos done well or not? Like, it's like, okay, if a video doesn't hit 3 million views, then it's not as good.
No, I think you can tell by the behavior after like the first 24 hours if a video is good. I really thought the video I did, downloading and re-uploading a video 1,000 times, took us like a month to do this project. It was like a really fascinating project for us to really do something no one else is going to do and observe how it reacts and behaves. And there's no good title or thumbnail that's going to get people to click right away on day one. And I think we sort of accepted that. We were like, whatever, if no one watches this video, it's fine. But the people who watch it are really going to like it. And I think because of that, it had a lower initial spike, lower initial click-through rate, but it was shared and watched till the end way more. And it hooked in YouTube's algorithm for a longer time because YouTube realized this video is giving people a good experience. They're watching the whole thing. And then not only that, this was a project where people would click off and like watch the 1,000th video and then watch the 100th video. And it was just keeping people on YouTube for a long time. So it had all the right hooks. So I think it was a good quality overall video with a bad idea. Or no, not a bad idea, a bad presentation. Okay. And you can overcome that with a good video. So I think that I at least get hope from that.
That's interesting to hear. Now, say a video doesn't do well. Does that does that have an effect on you? Does it ruin your day? You're like, oh man, I hate everything.
Nah, it's kind of on to the next one because that's the way the tech world is. Yeah. You can't get too down on it. I think a lot of people in the YouTube world, they sort of literally associate like their self-worth with the performance of a video. You gotta separate those. Like it's really about how happy you are with what you made. But no, I think I've got these 3 bad performing videos in a row and I'm on to this next one and I'm just as optimistic about it. I'll just tell you right now, it's about Dogecoin. I can't wait to upload this video. It's just like another random wild topic where it's like, diving into why I think this has been such a fun topic over the last couple of weeks on Twitter. It's just a fun conversation. Let's just have it on YouTube. So I'm not too worried. I think you get a bad video once in a while. It's just got to happen.
That's super interesting. I was gonna ask you this question towards the end, but I'm gonna ask now because you mentioned Dogecoin, right? Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. I know this is not financial advice, and let's put a big disclaimer here. This is not financial advice, just FYI. Do not take this. This is we're just having a chat, right? What are your thoughts on the whole cryptocurrency situation?
Yeah, I am not responsible for any actions you may take after watching this video. No, I think it's really interesting. I was watching another podcast that sort of talked about it at a higher level, because you can get into the like specifics of, Bitcoin and altcoins and everything, but about just like why the world needs a universal, decentralized, unregulated currency, and whether or not it will be built on blockchain, who even knows? But just the idea is good. Like the idea that it stands on is good. So, I have bought Bitcoin, yes, but I'm not so much trying to buy things with Bitcoin as much as I'm trying to immerse myself and better understand this eventual need for a global human currency instead of like 700 other currencies that we're always constantly trying to, translate between and everything. I think it's a really interesting idea.
It is super interesting. I mean, what do you think of Tesla buying $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin?
So I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think the other side of that coin is they're going to start accepting payments in Bitcoin for their cars, and that's really great for Tesla because it's what is even more on brand than having Elon as a CEO? Like accepting Bitcoin, super high tech thing, like great idea. But you should absolutely not. This is financial advice. Don't buy a car, which is a depreciating asset, with Bitcoin, which is going to appreciate in value. That's just not a great idea right now. Maybe when Bitcoin's a little more stable, it'll make sense. So there's my financial advice. All right, and the financial advice section. No, I think it's really smart. I think they've hedged their bet.
It'll make a good video though. Buying my Tesla with Bitcoin.
Oh, they'll do it. So I guarantee some YouTubers are already on it.
Yeah, most likely. But back to YouTube, just before we kind of finish off with something a little bit fun. Do you ever switch off from YouTube social media? Like I find myself, I'm literally living, breathing this stuff. Wherever I am, it's always like, oh, okay, do you ever switch off?
Yeah, okay. So I live in the Northeast US, and I play Ultimate Frisbee professionally. And that has always been my switch, like a hard switch in my brain. Now it's a pandemic. It's freezing cold outside. I haven't played any competitive sports in like 4 or 5 months, like way too long. And so I have not really been able to turn off. I've been like eating, living, breathing it 7 days a week for a couple months straight. And I realized that that's not great, at least for like mental health and diversity of thoughts. But yeah, that's always been my thing, is like on the weekend for a tournament, for a practice, that brain completely turns off. And I switch over to the competitive athlete brain for a little bit, so it's fun.
And like, have you ever taken a break from YouTube? Like, what's the longest period that you've not actually uploaded a video?
Lately, probably like a week, but ever, I think probably over a month. But often it's unintentional. I just like making videos. Yeah, like it's fun. I don't really want to take a break. Yeah,
fair enough. Now I did ask you this question like when we spoke a few years ago, but I kind of want to ask this now because it might have changed. YouTube has limited bandwidth. Okay, you can only watch 3 channels. Right? I know it's never going to happen, but you can only watch 3 channels. Obviously, one of those is going to be mine. What will the other 2 be? JK. What are the 3 channels that you would choose to watch?
So forever, huh?
Well, no. Okay, say a month.
Oh, for a month?
1 month, you can only watch 3 channels.
Okay. Let's see. I would want some sort of news. Actually, that's probably fine, because like there's other social media I can watch. I can get my news from other places. So I would probably just go like Joe Rogan's podcast channel is one. Just let me get interesting clips and conversations, and I'm sure he'll have some good guests every month.
Okay.
Let me get. Let's see. Let me get Doug DeMuro. Let me get those car videos, just to see what's going on in the car world and watch some videos, because I don't really follow them on Twitter. And this is such an interesting exercise. I'm trying to think what I only follow on YouTube. Let's go like Dude Perfect. Let's just go straight entertainment. I feel like I should go Mr. Beast. Like,
okay.
Yeah, probably one of either Mr. Beast or Dude Perfect. Just like straight up entertainment, like, mealtime videos, just like brain dead. I don't care what I'm watching. I just want to have fun type videos. Yeah. So I'll probably go
fair
with
enough.
That.
I think that's a really good answer. That's a good variety of entertaining as well as informative content for the month that you'll have. Thankfully, the bandwidth is not limited.
Yeah.
Well, it might be too. I heard it was like, they're limiting it to 480p in certain regions just because the lockdown has brought that much traffic over. But
yeah, briefly, it's crazy.
Yeah, hopefully it's not going to be anything crazy. Right now, the last time we kind of did a video like this, I mean, it wasn't a podcast per se, but I did a quick fire round, right? But I want to do something a little bit different here, right? Because we've done that. So, have you Googled yourself recently?
No. No, I haven't.
Okay.
Have you?
Well, I have. You'll be pleased to know that here's something that I did earlier. Right. Now, obviously, I don't expect you to answer every single one of these questions that people have. So, disclaimer, I just want you to know that this is not coming from me. This is what this is what the world wants to know about MKBHD, right? So you can either I'll say what that is. You can either answer it if you feel comfortable answering it, absolutely fine, or you can just give your reaction to it, right? Of what this search term is, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what would be, because I know the middle name probably isn't there anymore because they know it now, or maybe it's still there. I don't know. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, any guesses what the first related search is when you put in your name onto Google?
YouTube?
Nope.
Or tech?
It's Marques Brownlee net worth.
Oh, yeah, probably. Nah, yeah, I don't even know, to be honest, but
exactly.
I get that that's a thing, yeah.
That I think pretty much if you put any YouTuber's name, that's something that people are super interested in for some reason.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. You'd Google that. You wouldn't look that up on YouTube. I guess that makes sense, yeah.
Why do you think people are so interested in knowing how much we are worth?
I think when you see, if you're unfamiliar and you see a channel that has like the newest tech thing like every week, you're probably like, oh, wow, there's tons of money here. Like, I just want to know. Like, I bet, yeah, you're probably like, where does this come from? So I can understand the curiosity, sure.
Okay, all right. The second one. This is getting quite personal, right? Marques Brownlee girlfriend.
Oh, right. That also is, I could understand that. Yeah, I don't really share like the personal side intentionally because it's personal. Like, I think it's important to have things that you keep to yourself, like, and do for yourself. So like, Ultimate for a while was that for me, but I've ended up sharing that a lot. But I think you should have things that are like, go places and don't take pictures, but like, be there for yourself. That's my answer.
I'll feel you. And again, do you think why that might be that people are very interested in knowing?
Well, it's funny. My audience is like 93% male. So
90 here, by the way, just FYI. On TikTok, it's 55% female.
Whoa, dang, Saf raking it in. No, I I would expect a mostly male. I guess a male audience would want to know that. Maybe, I don't know.
I guess people, it's like, what I find is people are just very curious because one of my top searches, I mean, it's similar. Net worth, wife is one of those. And again, I'm similar to you where I don't really share much of my personal, but I think people are just kind of curious because they see one side of you. They're like, what is on this other side, right?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, because like you have this like parasocial relationship where you share as much as you want to share, and you don't like get to know the people sharing back. So they kind of feel like they know you and they want to know the rest of, so like they really know you. Like, oh, let me just Google the rest so I can just know him. Which is obviously not how you get to know someone, but they're trying. They're trying.
They're definitely trying, because those are the top 2 searches. Okay, number 3 is Marques Brownlee age.
Oh, yeah, I'm 27. I can answer that one.
That's a nice and easy one. Well, I mean, looking at these searches, it looks like that 8% of audience is maybe like super interested. Let's see if Marques is single. How old is he? How much is he worth? Asking all the right questions.
Dang, that's true. Wow, fair.
All right, your golfer's going to have to watch out. All right, number 4. I'm going to take part credit for this to be one of the top 5 searches, right? It's Marques Brownlee height.
Yeah, that I could see, because and like the thing that people, like when they see me in person, they're like, oh, I didn't know how tall you were, because I'm usually taller than they expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so do you want to say your height?
Oh, I'm 6'3". I don't know how many. Do you know how many centimeters that is?
I'm not good. Know. I mean, I always go, I'm like team metric, but growing up in the UK, we measure, like, it's so weird because we measure like items, like with centimeters, right, and meters. So if we're like talking, but height is in feet and inches, and distance is in miles for some reason.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
do your speedometers say miles per hour?
They say miles and kilometers, both.
Oh.
But miles is the primary, which is super, super weird. It's like completely disjointed. But basically, I was just going to say, I apologize, by the way, but that picture that I shared of
oh, yeah.
Mini Marques.
Right. Like, dude, is he 4'11"? What?
Really?
Yeah.
But I thought he was taller, because it was crazy, because that blew up on Reddit as well, because people are like, you know, because so I didn't Photoshop that. I was just like, because I remember we got that picture. By the way, that was a one in a lifetime picture. I absolutely love that picture of me, you, Jenna, Justine, and Steve Wozniak, right? And that was #1 trending on Twitter that day, for the tweet of the hashtag of Apple event, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the comments I was getting was just like, oh, man, Marques is so tall. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put out a challenge. Somebody make him super short, right? And I can't remember the name of the chap who did it, because I didn't do it, because even my Photoshop skills do not go that far. Man, it was super convincing.
It was good. I got to say.
Man, the amount of messages, I mean, literally thousands of messages that I got. And I think, you know, partly that might have been the result of why this pushed up so much into related searches, because people see that picture, they're like straight away tap in Marques Brownlee height to find out what the truth is. So yeah, so I said wild. I'm gonna take credit for that, but you know, I apologize. Thanks for being a good sport and not getting annoyed by it.
Yeah, I should have never said my height. I'm somewhere between 4 foot and 8 foot.
Somewhere between there. You can make a guess. All right. The next was there's net worth 2020, so they want to know your most recent Marques Brownlee Twitter for some reason, because you know
that's easy.
MKBHD is not easy enough. Marques Brownlee wallpaper. Okay.
Oh yeah. Every wall I try to put, every time I use like a cool wallpaper on my phone or on my computer in a video, I try to link the file in the description, but I also can't always find it, because sometimes I get it from like a Backdrops app or something, and I can't deep link into the app, so I just like tell them what app I got it from, and hopefully they find it. I had a wallpapers album, and here's the other thing. Oh man, that's a random story. I uploaded a public Google Drive folder of all the wallpapers I've ever used on my desktop, and this was like at least 5 years ago. And to this day, I get people requesting access to that Google Drive folder because it surfaces under a Google search for MKBHD wallpaper. So, yeah, it's just, you just got to find it.
Okay, so here's what you want to do, right? This is some business advice, right? The merch store needs a wallpaper section. Okay?
Ooh, yes.
That's what it needs. And then there you can have like MKBHD wallpapers. Clearly, there's a big demand for it. The reason why I came up with the sunglasses, which I still haven't been able to get back in stock, apologies, was because that's one of the top search results for me is SuperSaf sunglasses, right? So that's how you measure the demand, but then now you need to get the wallpapers on there and then have people be able to go on and download your wallpapers, MKBHD wallpapers, boom.
That's the move. I like that.
We're going to do that. All right. So we're just going to quickly go through the last few ones here. Marques Brownlee wife, again, related to the initial one. I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of demand out there for Marques. Okay, we've got Marques Brownlee Gal Gadot. That's something that we've talked about before. It's still carrying on, many years on.
It never dies, man. Somebody always goofs up.
Hey, man, you lost out your opportunity to be in the next Wonder Woman film.
I know, I was really hoping to.
I mean, after the last one, maybe not so much.
Yeah, now see, she got carried away, and now the Wonder Woman films aren't even that great.
Yeah, Marques Brownlee House is the last one in the top 10. So
I can't tell you. I mean, I make my videos.
Are we not going to see a Cribs? MKBHD Cribs?
Nah. That's another one of those things. It's like, I will probably, unless I'm literally doing a video about home tech, I'll probably never have a camera in my house.
I appreciate that. And again, like, this is something that a lot of people ask me as well. And it's like, no, I do not want anybody to know. It's personal, right? You want to keep that separation. So I appreciate that. I'm going to end off with 2 random questions. These are like completely unrelated, and it's just fun, right? Okay.
Sure.
These are not searched. These are coming from me. Okay. So obviously you're best friends with Elon Musk, right? Hey, you've got him on the DMs, right? His master plan is to have a colonization of Mars, right? And have a colony in Mars. And I believe he's very ambitious, that guy, right? So he wants 1 million people on Mars by 2050. What are your opinions? What are your thoughts about colonizing Mars?
So it's really interesting. I'm trying to remember where I think a Neil deGrasse Tyson video is where I heard like his thoughts on this, which I really thought were powerful, which is Mars is uninhabitable right now by humans. So before we get to Mars, we have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. We have to terraform it. We've got to warm it up at the poles. Like, there are some things you got to do to make that atmosphere and that livable for human life, right? And so you gotta do all this work. You gotta get nukes apparently at the poles and like melt that ice and like get it in the atmosphere and all this stuff and terraform the whole planet. And if you are actually able technologically to spend that many $1 billion to send that much technology to Mars, to turn Mars into Earth, then surely you can turn Earth into Earth, right? Surely we can fix this problem we've started. If there's enough money to send it there, let's try it here. Okay. This is the only Earth we've got, and I think that would be, I'm not saying going to Mars is a bad idea, but I think that would be a good place to start.
Okay. Now, I totally agree with you, but I've got a counter argument because I totally agree. Whatever it takes. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was just like, whatever it takes to, even if okay, fair enough, terraforming is like, we're talking like 1,000 years, right? But also kind of, they're talking about having like, habitats inside where you could be living. Maybe it's underground, have a full colony over there. My thinking is the problem we have is we have a lot of crazy world leaders, right? And things could go bad very quickly. And we've seen things kind of go to the edge of getting bad, and you're thinking, based on that, like, surely if the world was an ideal place and we all kind of got together and we were like, okay, no, we need to make, like, look at global warming. There's still a large chunk of people who don't believe in climate change. You know what I mean? So on that basis, I'm like, sure, set something up on Mars. Let's have a backup, because we have no idea what's going to go wrong here anytime soon.
Fair. Yeah, no, there's no doubt that, like, for the safety of humanity, it would be much more of a long-term plan to be interplanetary. Yeah. So yeah, with the inevitable death of Earth, yeah, we'd like to be on Mars and maybe even another planet someday. I don't know if Venus makes any sense, but
Venus is hell. 430 degrees. Maybe in the atmosphere, they're talking about having floating habitats, but the pressure is it's almost like being a kilometer down. It would literally crush you like a can if you were to go on the surface. And
of Venus?
It's hot enough to melt lead.
Yeah, it's definitely too hot. So I guess we should just try to lock up that whole Mars thing
Yeah.
if we can.
So 2050, like, okay, I think it's a bit too ambitious getting 1 million people on Mars, but say there's a colony on Mars, maybe 100,000 people, right? Let's give him some credit. Maybe he gets 100,000 people on Mars, gives you a call. It's like, hey, Marques, you know, you're a little bit older now. Want to have a setup for you, Mars? Do you want to come down? One-way ticket.
So I think I've thought about this, and like it would depend on like what's there. Like, is there internet? Like, the reason we have internet on Earth is because of all these servers on Earth and all the satellites around Earth that are retrieving that information. If I go to Mars, isn't there a different internet? Like, you need to now make a new internet with new information. Like, is that built yet? I don't know if I want to go to Mars with no internet.
So what Marques is saying is, as long as there's good internet, he's willing to go to Mars.
Mars internet might be dope, though. Who knows?
It might be. I mean, it's not going to be as crowded. It's not going to be as crowded. The thinner atmosphere. I'm sure they can get some, you know, with Starlink and everything that they're doing right now, I'm sure they can get a full satellite system going on there. I'm going to ask you one last random question before we end off. I appreciate your time, but this is a complete random question, and I'm just going to ask you this just for the hell of it, just to get some just interesting answers. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
I think about it more than I should.
That's interesting.
Because, like, the whole, like, what happens when we die thing, like, this whole what's the purpose of our life question, nobody has the answers, but every time you think deeply enough about, like, again, if you watch enough Neil deGrasse Tyson video, and you're just like, the universe is what? Like, how big? Like, how far out, how tiny we are? Like, it almost feels like there's no way this is it. So I like entertaining the idea that there's like we're in a program and someone's gonna Command C, Command V, and we'll be somewhere else. And, like, I don't know. There's a million ways to think about it.
Okay.
I don't know that I subscribe to that literal concept of being in a video game right now. I don't think I believe that. But the arguments are pretty good.
Interesting. All right, kind of threw the conversation of completely onto a different tangent there. But dude, thank you for your time. We actually went longer than I had thought, but I really appreciate you jumping in and sharing your thoughts on lots of stuff, and also lots of other stuff which I'm 100% sure nobody else has asked you in another podcast.
I think so. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. If I check my Instagram again to see how many of my followers follow you, right? 60%. It's still 60%. I think it was 60% before as well. So for the 40% that are not following Marques, make sure you go ahead and follow him. He's MKBHD on all platforms. Waveform podcast, amazing. Something that I listen to all the time. Make sure you go ahead and follow on there too. Marques, dude, thank you for coming on, man. And hopefully we'll get you back on in a few months' time as well.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully it's a lot less pandemic and a lot more warm weather next time.
Oh, yeah. So let's hope so, man. And there we have it, guys. That is the first guest on the podcast. Marques Brownlee, such an awesome guy. Really appreciate him taking the time out. Make sure you do check out his podcast as well, Waveform. And if you enjoyed this and you want to hear more like it, then be sure to follow the podcast and leave it a rating on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the SuperSaf Speaks channel, where we'll have lots of clips as well. And also get involved and let us know who you'd like to see on the podcast next as a guest. We are SuperSaf Speaks on Twitter as well as on Instagram. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks. I'll see you next time.